Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from Burger King, Buffalo Wild Wings, KFC, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a burger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
So good, so good, so good.
Get ready, because Clear the Rack is on at your Nordstrom Rack store. Now through Monday, find incredible deals on Wear Now styles. On sale for even less at Nordstrom Rack. Take an extra 25% off red tag clearance throughout the store from brands like Adidas, Marc Jacobs, Steve Madden, and more. All sales final. The best stuff goes fast. So shop this sale at Nordstrom Rack today. Please see NordstromRack.com or ask a store associate for details.
From the field to the film room to the war room, we've got you covered every step of the way as the road to the draft starts right now. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Armchair Scouts. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at Shane Haff NFL. I'm joined today by my co-host and fellow draft enthusiast Dives. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mr. Crockpot. Be sure and check out his podcast, Party on Broad. Dives, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Interesting group here. It's top heavy for sure. Excited to get into it.
All right. Also joined by his co-host on Party on Broad, Ryan. Give him a follow on Twitter at Philly Sports PSA. Ryan, we're talking linebackers. I don't even think I have to ask how you're doing tonight.
Honestly, I haven't slept in 4 days. That's why I wasn't around the other day. So I'm super excited to talk linebackers.
All right. And last but not least, I am joined by my co-host on Chalk Talk, Mark Henry Jr. Give him a follow on Twitter at Mark Henry Jr. _ Be sure to check out his Tough Cover radio show every Saturday. Mark, how are you doing?
You know, I'm just trying to find the next Oren Burks, Shane. We're just out here. We're out here trying to find the next Oren Burks for the Eagles, and that's what this episode's about.
All right. I'm going to title it that, Finding the Next Oren Burks in the 2025 NFL Draft. So, all right. Well,
there's a comment here. UNC, literally just a comfortable shirt. It's a Michael Jordan UNC shirt. It's I'm in a suburban Detroit hotel. Grabbed a couple shirts for the road. This happened to be one of them.
All right. Well, we are going to dive into this linebacker class. We're going to rank our top 5 linebackers in the 2025 NFL Draft. We'll go from 5 to 1. We'll talk about the guys along the way. Dives, I'm going to throw it to you first. Your number 5 is Carson. Help me out with his last name. Schlesinger.
Yeah.
Schlesinger. He is number 5 for both you and Ryan. He's number 4 for me. He is not in Mark's top 5. So talk to me about Carson Schlesinger.
Yeah, a lot of variability with Carson Schlesinger. Kind of shot out of a cannon over these last couple of months. especially playing for a disappointing UCLA squad. But let's get into it. Explosiveness, tremendous instincts, good feel across the board. He, again, played for a disappointing UCLA Bruins squad in 2024, but literally was a one-man wrecking crew for that defense. This guy looks great getting downhill, attacking the quarterback, wrapping up RBs behind the line of scrimmage. He's a modern linebacker who's a very good tackler. His missed tackle percentage was less than 8%. He's got 3-down upside at the next level. He can win as a blitzer. He plays really well in zone coverage, which fits the Eagles to a T. Smooth athlete. He was one of the top winners of the NFL Scouting Combine. Near 40-inch vertical jump. That was the second highest among linebackers. He also did 20 reps of the bench press. He's not the biggest guy, and he's only got 1 year of top-notch production, but what he lacks in mass, he makes up for it with his athleticism. He can struggle shedding blocks at times, but I think he's a plus in coverage. I think he's a standout on special teams. I think he's a very good tackler in the open field. Definitely a future starter, is kind of in the cards for him in a couple of years. And he is actually inside my top 50 prospects in this draft. He's a fun watch. Carson Schlesinger.
Dibes, I feel like you buried the lead. Like, the coolest thing about his profile is that he was unranked as a recruit and he walked on to UCLA in 2021, and he went from walk-on in 2021 to All-American in 2024 while leading the Big Ten in tackles. So
Wait. He's also a bioengineering major, super smart, and his nickname is Captain America.
I'm in. No. I did not know the nickname thing, but so he doesn't have a lot of experience. Only 1 year as a starter, 806 snaps on defense in college. He's a 1 year breakout player, which is always a little bit scary. But like I said, he was number 4 for me, which was still a 3rd round grade. Like I gave him a 3rd round grade, but that's still my number 4 linebacker. I think he can be a 3-down player as a Mike. If you can help him out a little bit in the run game. You could also use him as like a will linebacker to be a little more of your coverage guy. He's a special teams ace, played a lot of special teams when he wasn't starting. Mark, I feel like you have negative things you want to say about Captain America.
He seems really small on tape to me. And I know he's like not big, but he seems smaller than even he's listed at. I don't know. I don't see it as like a legit 3-down linebacker. And Shane's note about him being a walk-on who, had to earn his way like Rudy. It's not necessarily.
I did not
like
say the word Rudy.
That was my interpretation. No, Rudy wasn't an All-American. Rudy was offsides. But I just look at Schlesinger and I'm like, I don't see great stats. He has a couple big flash plays, but I think consistency. I don't think he's going to be big or athletic or strong enough necessarily. But I could be wrong.
He might be small like Rudy, but he hits like Daniel Bateman.
I think he's going to be a good special teamer. He didn't make my top 100.
Yeah. Among the 8 guys that I kind of charted things out or looked up stats and things for, he ranked 2nd in pressure rate, 3rd in sack rate, and 4th in defensive stop rate while playing the highest percentage of coverage snaps among the linebackers I looked at. So just to give you a little idea about his usage, I will try to remember to throw those out for the other guys as we get to them. But as we learned last night, I'm terrible about remembering to do that. But Ryan, Schlesinger was also your number 5. Anything you want to mention about him?
I mean, listen, I get the knock on him. He is a smaller linebacker, but I feel like he's got a really nice, a high motor, sideline to sideline kind of guy. Seems to be, pretty intelligent. And honestly, he kind of has a nasty streak, which is something you really do love to see. The knocks on him, again, aren't great. A little maybe too aggressive at times over pursuing, but Yeah, listen, I think you bulk him up a little bit in the NFL. I think he could be a very serviceable linebacker, if not a potential starter down the line.
All right. Well, that is Carson Schlesinger. And if you enjoyed Mark bashing his size at 81st percentile height, 80th percentile weight, Mark, why don't you tell us about your number 5, Mr. Chris Paul Jr., who is 42nd percentile height, 15th percentile weight.
You're a real scumbag for that selection.
He is also number 3 on Dive's board, by the way. He is just outside of mine and Ryan's top 5. So go ahead, Mark.
He's small. I get it. Yeah, it sounds hypocritical after my takedown of Schlesinger. But I do think hanging in the SEC for multiple years, and I think that you look at the way he graded out athletically outside of the size, and I think his athleticism shows up on tape more than Schlesinger. He's just a guy. I mean, he's one of the only 3 linebackers, and I know Shane, cover your ears with me mentioning PFF grades, but he was one of 3 who posted 78 plus in run defense coverage and pass rushing among linebackers. But to me, he seems like if he was just 6'2", if he was the size that if he was average size, I think we'd be talking about easily the number 3 linebacker in the class. But obviously his size is a detriment. It's why he's barely in my top 100. He's my number 84 guy. So he's actually a day 3 grade for me still, while being my number 5 guy, which might give you a little input on how I feel about this class. I did have my comp for him as a poor man's Quan Alexander. Quan Alexander is not that good. So it's not that great of a comp, but there you go.
Mark's like, I know he's small, but if he wasn't small.
if this guy grows a couple inches, you better watch out. No, I'm joking. But I do think a lot of snaps in the SEC, and I believe in the athleticism, I guess, more than Schlesinger, at least on the football athleticism on tape.
Yeah, and he was, of the guys that I looked up things for, he was first in pressure rate, second in sack rate, and first in defensive stop rate. So he's got the production there for sure. Also has played a lot of special teams, 300 plus special team snaps in his career. So you can get him on the field that way. I think you could get him on the field as like a stack linebacker if you can help protect him in the run game a little bit, maybe a sub package coverage specialist, something like that. I do just have concerns about him in the run game. But Dives, you're significantly high. Well, I don't know about significantly, but he was your number 3 linebacker.
Real fast, Dives let me know that his middle name is Pooh, and I forgot to mention that. A comment asked, why didn't he play basketball? A short guy named Chris Paul playing basketball, it could never work. It could never work. It's never worked before.
All right. Dives, anything you want to add in on Paul Jr.?
I think he's a modern linebacker. I agree with everything Mark said. Like, he struggles shedding blocks, but him as a blitzer off the line is explosive. I think he's got a lot of ability in coverage. I like Chris Paul. I think he fits the Eagles really well. All
right. That brings us to my number 5.
By the way, I'm sorry I keep having thoughts late. Is there some Nakobe Dean there to Chris Paul Jr. types?
In terms of explosiveness, yeah. I think he's probably a little more explosive, and I think he can drop back into coverage a little better than Nakobe.
Because Nakobe 5'11", another short kind of linebacker who kind of broke the mold last year with a big year as a short linebacker. But
Chris Paul is a great tackler. Like, he is a great tackler, and I think he's a second round grade.
All right, let's go to my number 5. My number 5 is Smael Mondon Jr. out of Georgia. He was a two-way player in high school. Linebacker and running back. He also ran track. He was a 5-star recruit, was a special teamer at Georgia in 2021, and then became a starter in 2022. But he has dealt with injury issues every year of his career, which we'll get to. But he's 22 years old, 6'2" and 2/8, 224 pounds, ran a 4.58 40, had a 10.10 broad jump, and overall a 9.38 relative athletic score. He ranked 4th in pressure rate, 4th in sack rate, and 6th in defensive stop rate this season. I think Mondon he's a fluid mover with great range. You can see him on run plays away from him. He will pursue from the backside, and he can make tackles on the opposite sideline. So he brings tons of range. I think he flashes good coverage ability in both man and zone coverage. He can cover backs out of the backfields. He can cover tight ends off the line of scrimmage and man. A lot of times Georgia would have him mug up gaps or walk down on the edge pre-snap, and then he has no problems getting into hook zones from there. He's a good tackler. Only missed 5.2% of his tackles in 2024. Has over 425 special team snaps in his collegiate career. I do think he struggles to navigate through traffic, and so fitting the run can be a challenge for him. He possesses the athleticism to overcome that, but it puts him in positions to give up yards after contact a lot of times. He doesn't miss the tackle, but he kind of gets knocked backwards. He can easily be knocked off balance when he does rush the passer, even when he's accounted for by a running back in the protection. He doesn't really have like a go-to pass rush move. But the biggest thing for him, I think, is his injury history. He missed part of his senior year in high school with a knee injury, missed 2 games in 2022 with an ankle injury. He missed the 2023 spring game with a foot injury that required surgery, and then he missed 4 games in 2024. So medical checks are going to be huge for Mondon. Overall, at the end of the day, I'm not a doctor, so I'm just going to look at the player on the field. And based off of what I see, I gave him a 3rd-round grade. I think he is a developmental will linebacker, or maybe you use him as a coverage linebacker in sub packages, a core special teamer, whatever, while he brushes up on his run game instincts and adds a little bit of bulk to help in the run game. So 3rd-round grade on Mondon for me. He was outside of all of your guys' top 5s. Does anybody want to add anything on there before we get to our number 4s?
I think he's a guy that for several years now, I've been waiting for him to put it together on the field and become dominant. I mean, you look at the combine, it only confirmed what we already know. Like his short shuttle, everything. He's an elite athlete, great measurables, and it's unfortunate with the injury history. But when he's on the field, maybe he's kind of like that safety Malachi Moore out of Alabama. Like when he's on the field, he's terrific, but there's not a lot of that. So for me, I think he probably gets overdrafted. I think you're probably more right than wrong, Shane. 3rd round's a little rich for me, but given his combine and measurables, maybe a team rolls the dice and banks on that, Georgia bloodline and that athleticism.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's keep rolling to our number 4s. Ryan, I'll throw it to you first. At number 4, you have Barrett Carter out of Clemson. He is not inside of anybody else's top 5. So talk to me about your boy here.
Listen, Carter, I feel like, was going to come out last year, decided to stay, and didn't have necessarily the greatest year, back at Clemson. But, what he does do well, he plays with a lot of strength, a lot of pop, and he's able to kind of get off blocks very consistently. He certainly is a big hitter as a linebacker, and just is able to kind of work his way through traffic, utilizing his quick bursts, his quick feet, and his leverage. I will say in zone coverage, he's very disciplined. Doesn't really get shaken off his assignment too often. Stays pretty true to what he needs to do there. But I will say some negatives. Not the great at disengaging from offensive linemen. Apparently there has been some times where he's been caught pretty flat-footed, for another word, in man coverage. So his man coverage certainly needs some improvement in the next level. But I will say overall, he has really good instincts as a linebacker. He really does, hits the hole downhill and really does just kind of fly through there and attacks the running back, quarterback, whatever he sets his sight on. So I will say that aspect of it, the fact that he's such a great athlete, I think there's a lot of just little things that he really could clean up to make him a pretty decent linebacker in the next level. Again, just working on some of those other things. But I've always liked kind of Carter, and maybe this is more of a kind of a history thing because I fell in love with him last year. Again, it didn't have the greatest year, but neither did Clemson. So,
all right. Does anybody else have anything they want to throw in about Carter?
I'm just curious why the drop off. I don't know if he was put in the best position or his role changed or what happened there. Because if you were to watch Clemson 2 years ago, he was arguably way better, much bigger standout than Trot Jr. was. So.
Maybe he needs Trot, and maybe we should just bring him in, and the two of them just blossom together.
You know who was also there 2 years ago? Andrew Makuba. Just saying.
He was. He sure was. We can bring him in too. Let's bring them all in. I'm okay.
But yeah, I think scheme fit is going to be vital for Barrett Carter. He's more of a safety hybrid kind of dude at this point. Has some flashes of real explosiveness off the line of scrimmage when he's blitzing, but I think it's more day 3 than day 2 right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was 5th in pressure rate, 5th in sack rate, and 5th in defensive stop rate. I put a 3rd/4th round grade on him. This is a guy that, I watched him, I think, 3rd among linebackers, and then I'd watch the next guy, and I'd be like, nope, I like him better. And I just kept putting guys above him, he just kept getting pushed down for me. But so that's Barrett Carter. Mark, your number 4 is Demetrius Knight. He is actually number 3 for Ryan. So I'll throw it over to you. Talk to us about Demetrius Knight.
He's probably my favorite linebacker in the class in coverage. I think he's really, really good in coverage. He's an older prospect, so you're probably, what you see is what you get probably at this point with Demetrius Knight. I don't think there's a ton of room for growth. But he's, again, the same stat with Chris Paul Jr., one of the only 3 linebackers who finished with above 75 PFF grade in all 3 categories there for linebackers. And but I think that there's some concerns in terms of missed tackles and in the run game. I think that it's going to be easy to break some of those tackles. But in terms of his coverage, I believe in his coverage. I think his coverage translates to the next level, and that's kind of going to be his golden ticket.
All right. That was very short and sweet. Ryan, anything you want to add in on Knight?
He's actually related to Gladys Knight and Aretha Franklin, which is something interesting. Obviously, more on the sports side of things, D'Angelo Hall is, I believe, an uncle, I believe. Anyway, I just think Mark's had a great, he's one of the better, if not the best coverage linebacker, in this class. And I feel like his blitzing ability is kind of, he just shows kind of just a natural kind of a knack for it, being able to utilize good timing and kind of hit that explosive first step that he has. And he seems to also be willing to take on whatever challenge kind of seems to be in front of him. So that kind of mindset, that instinct, and that ability combined with him as a very good coverage linebacker, I think somebody's certainly going to have a great linebacker on their hands that will do what the NFL is kind of moving towards, being more in the coverage than anything. So,
all right. Well, let's keep rolling along. We're going to go to a guy that is number 3 on mine and Mark's board. He's number 4 on Dibes' board, and I'm pretty sure Ryan had a typo on his list because he wasn't in the top 5, and that can't possibly be right. But it is Danny Stutzman, the stud linebacker from the University of Oklahoma. Not that I am biased whatsoever. But Stutzman is the son of a collegiate tight end. He played both sides of the ball in high school as a tight end and a linebacker. 4-star recruit who committed to OU and got snaps as a true freshman before becoming a full-time starter as a sophomore. So he just turned 22 years old, 6'3" and 2/8, 233 pounds, had a 9.59 relative athletic score. This is a high motor player who pops off the screen with effort and range. Like, you watch Oklahoma, and they had a very good defense this year, and this is the guy that stands out. He's got good athleticism, quick processing ability, which makes him a high-impact player. He has really good lateral agility, good in zone coverage, has the athleticism to carry number 3s up the seam or to play the deep middle in Tampa 2. He does really well at playing through traffic and getting to the ball carrier in the run game. And this is a guy that he's just a captain material, high character player. He's been a massive leader at OU. He split his NIL earnings this last season with 18 walk-on players. Like, he's just a classic character guy. Now, that doesn't win you football games, but it doesn't hurt. For some of his weaknesses, I do think he can be manipulated by misdirection at times in the run game because of his aggressiveness. He is able to recover from those false steps a lot, at least in college. We'll see at the NFL level, but he comes in too hot to tackle at times, and it leads to a high missed tackle rate. He missed 12.2% of his tackles in 2024. I think he struggles more in man coverage, where he's asked to sink his hips and get out of breaks while staying in phase. That's not his strong suit. He's better as a spot drop zone guy. And I think he lacks the strength to anchor against offensive line when they're climbing to the second level. He's often able to dip under blocks, but when he gets squared up, he struggles to disengage at times. So I gave a second-round grade to Stutzman, and I projected him out his best fit as a Mike linebacker in a zone-heavy scheme at the next level. So, Mark, I know you love Stutzman as well. What are your thoughts on Stutzman? What did I leave out?
No, you got all of it there, and it's a Sooner, so you better have. But I PFF has him graded really, really low. And I think they have like 170 something. And they say because their coverage grades him out as like one of the worst coverage guys among linebackers. I just think even if there is some problems in coverage, I just think you look at that at raw athletic score and look at what he's able to do laterally in terms of quickness. And that's a guy that I would want to get in my system and develop as a linebacker. And I think that he can develop into being really good in coverage, just athletically speaking. I don't see the limitation of why he couldn't. And I see enough on tape that I think he's able to handle it most of the time anyway. I think the PFF grade is probably just garbage. So I love Stutzman. He's far above my number 4 and number 5 guy. He's closer to my number 2 guy than he is to my number 4 guy.
Yeah, same for me there. Dibes, Ryan, anything either of you guys want to add in on Stutzman?
I love him. He's my number 4 linebacker, but I have him in my top 50 prospects. I'm going with my gut. I'm going with my eye on this one. Shane, you watched a lot more Oklahoma than me, of course, but every time I watched Oklahoma, like he was by far the standout every single time. Like Jalen Walker or, oh my gosh, who's the Texas linebacker? Anthony Hill. It's just always around the ball, and that was Danny Stutzman.
All right. Well, let's keep rolling then. We all have the same number 1 and the same number 2. So there's some consensus there. But, Dibes, I'll throw it to you. Talk about our number 2 guy.
Let's talk about Jahad Campbell out of Alabama, one of the biggest, if not the biggest winner from the NFL Scouting Combine. 4.52 40-yard dash, 10.7 broad jump, best among linebackers. Acceleration is off the charts. He's a guy that can really attack the quarterback when coming off the edge. I think that's one of the biggest separators between him and his peers. Really good size, 6'3", 235. Another modern day star linebacker who, negative wise struggles to shed blocks at times. His aggressiveness can be an asset, but it can also backfire against those misdirections, against those play action passes. Needs to improve against defending the run. But man, the upside on this guy is big time. He's got all the physical tools to be a 3-down playmaker. Might take some time, but I think he's a scheme versatile player. And someone's getting a steal if this guy falls out of the first round. Jahad Campbell is a really fun player. Really fun.
All right. He ranked third in pressure rate, first in sack rate, and second in stop rate among the linebackers in this class, at least that top 8. So, Mark, anything you want to add on Campbell?
I'm a little lower on Campbell than consensus. He's a second-round grade for me. And I'm seeing a lot of mocks where he's top 10, top 15. I don't think he's going to go top 10, top 15 at all. And we've just seen it time and time again with linebackers. Like, I think about a guy like Devin Lloyd, who ended up falling. I can't remember how far Lloyd fell. Shane, was he a high second rounder to Jacksonville? But I remember Lloyd grading out even better, I think, than Campbell did athletically. And I think probably being an even more polished player coming in than Campbell is. He got the same kind of buzz and ended up falling deep into the draft. Did you get that, Shane?
He was 27th overall to the Jags.
Okay, so he got into the first round, but it was late first. I could see the same thing with Campbell, and I mean PFF has him in the top 10. I'm seeing tons of mocks where I think it's Carolina fans. I saw a lot of them wanting to draft him. I forget exactly what pick they are, 7 or 8, something in that range. That I do not think he's the type of linebacker that I would take that high. He's really good. I don't think he's quite that elite personally. I'm a little lower on each of these guys, I think, than consensus. I don't think there's besides Stutzman, I don't think there's a single linebacker who it's like I'm higher than the consensus ranking on overall probably.
All right. Ryan, anything you want to add in on Campbell?
Yeah, I mean, you guys pretty much said it at all. I thought, he had a really great, combine to go along with a pretty decent season, I should say. I just like his instincts. I think you can tell from where he was beginning of the year to where he ended up that he's just constantly learning, constantly growing, and his efficiency is up there. I think just 5.5 missed tackle rate. He's kind of a reliable linebacker. And I like he does all the little things right, in my opinion. So I'm a big fan of his. Would certainly love to grab a linebacker of his quality.
All right. I gave him a first round grade. I said that I would love to see him in like a sim pressure scheme where you give him the ability to threaten the center with a rush or to bail out into coverage. I've got some concerns in the run game. Like, I think he's overly aggressive and doesn't read it out as well. And his pass rush production was great. Like, he had an 8.1% sack rate, but I do think that was more scheme than it was like his pass rush moves. He doesn't have like a lot of power or an elite first step. It was more schemed things with their sim pressures. And I would like to see him in that sort of role at the NFL level. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be a top 10 or 15 guy, but I think there is potential he goes in the later part of the first round.
Definitely.
So, okay, let's go to our number one linebacker. We're going back to Georgia. Ryan, talk to me about Jalen Walker.
This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was getting frustrated by your forms. Now, Taxes is uploading your forms with a snap, and a TurboTax expert will do your taxes for you. One who's backed by the latest tech, which cross-checks millions of data points for absolute accuracy, all of which makes it easy for you to get the most money back, guaranteed. Get an expert now at TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
Yeah, Jalen Walker, as Dive said earlier, he's a guy that just flies off the screen. He's got an talk about an elite first step. He's absolutely got one. Able to rush the passer. I think he had 3 sacks against Texas this year. He's got great bend, great flex, able to maintain speed. And getting around the edge. When it comes to run defense, he's able to blow up blocks, use his hands, leverage, and his just strength to get to the running back. And whether it's if he's rushing the passer, he's able to kind of get through his blocker should he need to. He's got a great motor. I would say, his coverage skills certainly is not the best in the class. Is certainly something that needs some refinement, and sometimes can be caught a little flat-footed. But overall, I think he shows good instincts. As an off-ball linebacker, and I think outside of a few over pursuant plays here and there, I think he's really just got a lot of little things to kind of again work on, clean up in the next level to be a truly effective linebacker. I think he does a lot of great things, really well. And I think that is definitely going to show whomever drafts him in the first round. He's just, he's exciting to watch. Honestly, he's just a guy you can just turn on a game, and you're going to be fixated on him on the defense.
All right, my favorite fun stat or fun fact is that Jalen Walker and Jahad Campbell have the exact same birth date. I discovered that when I was looking up their ages. Exact same birth date, so that's always fun. Dibes, anything you want to add in on Walker?
Yeah, it was just fun to watch him play at Georgia. It was a treat. I think he's that chess piece, like not comparing him to Cooper DeJean, but in the right system, like a Vic Fangio, that could use him in so many different ways. Odd fronts, even fronts. Like he could just be that chess piece, kind of is what I'm trying to say, for a defense, and be a big time impact player. I like him a lot. He's just outside of my top 10.
He's a second round grade for me.
I love it.
I kind of just don't know what he is, I guess. I don't think he's good in coverage.
He's not.
I think he's really stiff in coverage. Like I don't see him covering at the next level. So then to me, that makes him an edge rusher. And I get that means he's a linebacker edge rusher. Maybe he's a stand-up edge rusher. But then we're talking about a guy who's pretty undersized. If we're talking about just strictly an edge rusher who's not covering. And if he's strictly an edge rusher, that size, he's probably my edge 5 or my edge. Yeah, probably my edge 5. So I guess I'm just a little bit more skeptical on what his role is going to be.
Yeah, so
it's great sideline to sideline. Sorry, I forgot to say that.
when you talk about versatility, I mean, like, so when you look at Campbell, he's versatile in the right way. Like, you can use him to rush or for sim pressures, but you could also stick him at off-ball linebacker and expect him to thrive. Like, he has an easy on-ramp to being an impactful player while he acclimates to the NFL. Jalen Walker, he brings abilities as a run defender, as a pass rusher, as a quarterback spy, but he's small. And you look at he only was in coverage on 28% of his of his snaps, which was last among the linebackers I looked at. And the next to last rate was 41%. So like, he's just significantly in coverage less. And it's because he's not very good at it. He can take shallow drops, but he loses his lateral agility when he's dropping and reacting. He's really athletic, so I feel like you can get there, but you're not there right now. He lacks the instincts and the transitions. And so when you strip that away from him, if he's an edge rusher, then he's basically the Hassan Reddick profile of second percentile height and weight for the position. And Hassan Reddick's really good, but it took him a while. And we don't really want to make a habit of betting on those outliers. So you look at small sample size, only 362 career defensive snaps before this season, tons of athleticism. Like, he's an ultimate boom bust guy. I gave him a first round grade, and I think his best usage is going to be in like a multiple front scheme that uses linebackers in multiple ways, but it's difficult to assimilate a rookie to the NFL while asking them to be a part-time edge rusher / part-time off-ball linebacker and have all those different responsibilities. So that leaves you with being versatile, maybe in the wrong way, where it's just hard to find your footing. So if it was me, I would start him out as like a blitzing linebacker edge type and try not to give him too much in the way of coverage responsibilities early and try to fill that out later. But this is the ultimate boom bust, bet on the athleticism and traits type of guy. And I'm fascinated to see where he lands and how they use him early in his rookie contract.
I think it's unfair to like say that, especially when you like say maybe it's Shamar Stewart, who is another ultimate boomer bust guy with the traits, but Jalen Walker was night and day a more impactful player than like some of these other boomer bust guys. Like, Jalen Walker was without a doubt the best player on that Georgia defense, even more so than Malachi Starks, who we all have as a first round pick.
Well, to be fair, I gave Shamar Stewart a second round grade, and I gave Jalen Walker a first round grade. So yeah. I'm in, but I am concerned if he doesn't land in the right place, or if they try to use him wrong or do too many different things.
I did want to come back in and make sure because me and Shane really crapped on him there. He's both of our number one linebackers.
Right. So, wow, you guys hate linebackers.
There's obvious traits to buy in on, and obvious things like he's so good sideline to sideline, so good chasing down running backs going, on like a sweep or a toss type play. And Shane mentioned, the QB spy, unbelievable as a QB spy. Great plays in that Notre Dame game against Riley Leonard, who that's basically all he does. So and then. I don't want to completely minimize Jalen Walker. I do think Starks is a little bit better on that defense than Walker. I slightly disagree.
Not last year.
Maybe not last year. I'd have to dive into that. Maybe not last year.
2 years ago, yes.
Walker's great.
No, 2 years ago was Caleb Downs. I take it back.
Yeah. Walker's great at all those things, but I guess are we talking about a guy who is in run support for linebacker? He can do the run support and he can do the pass rushing, but is he going to be taken off the field if he can't cover, I guess? Or is he just going to get shifted into a pass rushing role on those plays, which kind of gives away that your pass rush? There's a little bit of good DC figures that out. Like a good,
I think his cover skills is more, I don't think it's more of a, I don't, he can't do it. I just think it's, again, it's raw. He doesn't have a lot of, experience. So
that's fair. Definitely athletic enough.
I think, yeah, exactly. I think it's just chalk it up to that. When he was able to do it, it wasn't, lights out. He's not a cornerback, for a reason. But I think with the athleticism, the instincts, I think all of that is going to eventually meet up, and he'll be serviceable enough in coverage.
Well, that's one of the things I mentioned too, is like, I don't think the coverage is good, but he also just didn't do it much. And he's so athletic. You would assume that you can pick some of those transitions and things up. And he is really good in the run game too. Like, I mean, he can stack and shed blocks from offensive linemen. Forget about trying to block him with like a tight end. You can't do it. Yeah. And so it's everybody's got strengths and weaknesses. And I'm just curious to see how he gets used, because I'm fascinated by him as a prospect, but I also see the outcome where it just doesn't work because he lands with some DC that's like, just line up and play football. And there's more of that in the league than there should be. And I'm afraid he lands with a team that does that to him.
And something that I didn't really think about before podcasting with Shane for these types of guys is if a guy like this gets hurt, your defense gets thrown into such whack because you can't really replace that type of guy. Shane always talks about that. So I always kind of think about it with these joker type guys. Obviously there's guys like this, or, different type of guys who have panned out incredibly. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is one of the best linebackers in the sport. Obviously a little bit different. He was more of like a fringe D-back linebacker than an edge rusher linebacker. So it's a different kind of archetype, but he was a jack of all trades type guy as well. And a good DC kind of figured out the right way to use him, and Jim Schwartz there. But and the same thing could happen with Jalen Walker. Obviously, he's our number one linebacker for a reason. But for me, he's like my number 27 guy, I think, here. So that's I'm not quite as in on him as I think he's getting some top 5, top 10 buzz.
Well, hey, I like Mark's ranking, and hopefully he'll just be there for the Eagles. I don't think so either, but
I don't think I'd.
You wouldn't like that?
I don't think I'd love it at 32. What do you think about that, Shane?
I think I would like it.
Okay.
I think you could do. He's obviously got a long ways to go before you could talk about Zach Bond coverage related, but I do like the idea. I mean, I like the idea of, if it worked out, you would have two guys on the field that you're capable of spinning down to play edge rusher on a particular play. And the creative thing, we saw what Vic Fangio would do, where he shifts from a 4 to a 5-man front just before the snap with Zach Bond. I mean, hypothetically, in a world where you had Jalen Walker and Zach Bond on the field, you could shift that either direction. So it'd be fascinating to see what a guy like Vic could do with it. And I do think you'd have a lot of the replicable versatility between Bond and Walker, that it wouldn't handicap you if one of them got hurt, because the other one can still do a lot of those things. Obviously he's got to grow a lot in coverage, but I would probably be in on that.
Yeah. It's immediate jersey worthy.
He's also the cheat code if you're looking for good grades on a Eagles mock draft. He's got a lot of positive buzz out there. People seem to be very happy about a Georgia linebacker. For what it's worth.
We all know Dibes is all about cheating in mock drafts.
What a cheater. He cheats with me, too. He's posting these mocks where he's got Dion Walker in them and Malachi Moore and Benjamin Morrison. And Dibes is trying to win me over on Twitter with some of these mocks. But, hey, as long as they don't draft Jalen Walker over James Pierce or Derek Harmon or Nolan or Princely or Monmoline or Nick Manwery.
I'm sprinting the Derek Harmon card up to the podium myself. So
how we're on a tangent here, but that's fine. How much more do you like Derek Harmon than Walter Nolan for the Eagles? I was listening to your guys' pod before this, because Nolan and Harmon have kind of been my tandem of answers of give me Harmon or Nolan. I have them back to back. I have Harmon one spot higher.
All those guys you just listed, I would take Walter Nolan over.
Nolan would be number 3 on that list of the guys. You would take him over Pierce?
Pierce?
Yes. Walter Nolan.
I would rather a D tackle. D tackle is a higher need for me than edge rusher.
I think his upside as a pass rusher is so elite. I think he's a great fit.
I think he just sees the stars of Carter and Nolan.
Oh,
he just can't get that out of his head.
I'm just going off my grades. I Nolan has a number 4, number 5 overall.
Okay.
I think he's terrific.
Yeah, I love him.
I think I'm Pierce, Harmon, Nolan is my big three for the Eagles.
Pierce is like 12-ish, and then Harmon is like 27, and I like Harmon a lot. That would be a very safe pick.
Yeah.
Starks or Manry. I like that too.
Starks, unfortunately. It's like Starks, then Emmanuel, but Emmanuel is not that far behind. He's just very raw. A lot of projection with him.
Guys, this is the linebacker show. So, all right. Well, there you have it. That is our top 5 linebackers. I will recap them here. We all have the same number 1 and 2. Jalen Walker 1, Jahad Campbell 2. I have from 3 to 5 Danny Stutzman, Carson Schlesinger, and Smael Mondon Jr. Mark has Stutzman 3, Demetrius Knight Jr. 4, Chris Paul Jr. 5. Dives has Chris Paul Jr. 3, Danny Stutzman 4, Carson Schlesinger 5. And Ryan has Demetrius Knight Jr. 3, Barrett Carter 4, Carson Schlesinger number 5. Now, we looked at more guys than this. Sometimes there's guys that we want to honorable mention, shout out that did not make our top 5. So I'll throw it to Mark first, who's trying to assess a technical foul right now.
I'm calling a timeout.
Oh, okay.
I forgot to say this. You just can't bet on a guy named Carson Schlesinger. There's no way that guy's going to turn out to be a good NFL player with that name. Maybe clip this. Old Takes expose this when he's an All-Pro in 3 years. But Carson Schlesinger, you're telling me that's going to strike fear in a running back?
Hey, listen, better draft.
Put it in the envelope. Yeah. The Eagles are drafting this guy.
Clip that when the Eagles draft him.
Better draft Captain America than Captain Oklahoma, right?
You've heard of number or jersey number analytics. We're going with name analytics now.
By the way, this is a bad time
from now on.
It's a bad time to bring it up, but this reminds me of my take in the Justin Herbert draft where I went, that guy's too weird looking to be a franchise quarterback. And he absolutely proved that wrong. So maybe I should retire those types of takes. I don't know.
He's the Red Skull. He's the Red Skull down there.
All right. Well, Mark, did you have anybody you want to honor? As much as you hate the linebacker class, I doubt it. But do you have an honorable mention you wanted to shout out?
Barrett Carter, Ryan talked about him. He's right there with Chris Paul Jr. It could have been Barrett Carter easily at 5 there for me. And then Jack Kaiser. Jack Kaiser's gonna, be a rotational linebacker, but he's not athletically good in coverage. He can't cover.
All right.
But he's great he's a great tackler. Great in run support. First guy in, last guy out type of guy. Leader of the defense. I love Jack Kaiser, Notre Dame legend, but I don't know if he's, athletically a guy who's going to be able to cover anybody at the next level.
All right. Dives, anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, underrated prospect that fits the Eagles really well, and he actually met with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's a day 3 guy, but I think he's more of a day 2 guy. Teddy Buchanan. If you don't know him, make sure you check him out. Tested really well at the combine, had the best vertical leap, 40-inch vert, 10.5 broad, at 6'2", 233 pounds. Not so bad. He's one of arguably the best cover linebacker in this draft. He's a former safety. I know that gives Shane nightmares of another linebacker in Eagles history. But I think this guy's got sleeper written all over him. Doesn't have a lot of college production. I think he only had 1 year FBS production. But Teddy Buchanan, go check him out.
Well, speaking of safety converts, Jeffrey Bassa from Oregon. He's a guy that I looked at a little bit. 4-star recruit out of high school, played 14 games as a true freshman, starting 7 of them at linebacker despite committing as a safety. He became a 4-year starter at Oregon. He's fast and has good range and coverage, can handle speed from the slot up the seam, good range in the run game, tries to duck blocks a lot. He's got good special team. He's a good special teamer. But, he was a former safety, so he gets swallowed up in the run game by linemen. He's got good hands, but you can't punch your way out of being just overwhelmed. And I think he's slow to diagnose runs. He lacks those instincts, you can tell. The biggest thing with him, he doesn't handle transitions and coverage as well as you would like for a safety convert. I just didn't think he was the most twitchy, agile guy. So, but if you want to get like a sub package coverage specialist, maybe could play Will / can also contribute on special teams type guy on day 3, you could check out Jeffrey Bassa.
Did you see his scouting combine performance?
Yeah, it wasn't great. Yeah, it wasn't great. The 3-cone was really concerning, but 36th percentile 3-cone for a linebacker as a former safety. But anyways, Ryan, anybody you want to shout out before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously my honorable mention was Chris Paul, but yeah, definitely would say somebody like a Jay Higgins from Iowa. Certainly a guy that has potential 3 down. Yeah, I was going to say Jack Kaiser. I'm a big fan of his as well. Now that's the name that Carson Schlesinger wishing he had. So, and you're muted.
Jack Kaiser. That's a
linebacker name.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. For some reason, I got Jeffrey Bassa and Jay Higgins confused.
Yeah,
Jay Higgins was the one that bombed the combine.
He did not have a good.
My apologies.
Okay.
My bad.
Yeah, Bassa had a good 40 time, but like his 10-yard split and his 3-cone were both pretty bad. So not ideal. But
fun fact: Dives got the surprise Bassa on the street with that picture in his in your little profile of him. You bring that back up.
Wait, what?
I'm lost.
Bassa? Yeah, everybody has like nice like show. This literally looks like Dives is just like, hey, come here.
I just think whatever I can find.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up on this episode of the Armchair Scouts, breaking down the top 5 linebackers in the 2025 NFL Draft. Guys, we are almost there. We're almost to the draft. There's only a few weeks left, and we've got 3 position groups left to go. Offensive line, wide receiver, and defensive back. So tune back in next week. We'll be back breaking down our top offensive linemen in the draft, and then we'll get into the wide receivers, defensive backs over the last couple weeks. Thank you guys for joining us live. 5-star ratings and reviews on the podcast feed. Greatly appreciated wherever you get your podcasts. The Eagles Pin Pull Network is there. And like I said, we'll be back next week breaking down offensive line film. It'll be a good time. We'll catch you guys then.